not winning 90% of your new business because you have some sort of incredible value.
I'm going to take a bit of a different angle.
I've got a budget this big. I'm going to give it to you because you have a really killer plan.
You give a Red Bull to a turtle, what do you expect?
I think that's a dead turtle. So let's move on to...
E-break.
Cheers.
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 Does your current premium finance company lock you into long-term agreements? That's because they don't want you talking to us. At IFS, we win your business the good old-fashioned way, with customer service. I know you don't always have to use a premium finance company, but when you do, you should use IFS. Cheers.
Hi there, and welcome to the Digital Insurance Pint podcast. I'm your host, Tom Reed, and as always, I'm joined by my colleagues, Steve Earle, CEO of Cheap Insurance and Bald Insurance.
Hello.
Adam Mitchell, CEO of Mitch Insurance.
Hello.
And Jeff Roy, CEO of Excalibur Insurance.
Welcome, Pinters.
A very special episode today. A couple of the amigos here have made some fairly significant life and business decisions that we're going to dig into. The news is already out, I believe, that Jeff has decided to merge Excalibur with the McFarland Rowlands empire, and Steve has merged with, I don't remember who.
Southampton, no?
Mm-hmm. Southampton Financial.
Southampton Financial, awesome. And even Adam might actually have a little tidbit to share with us as we go through this conversation. So, guys, talk about what is your news? What's going on? Jeff, what the hell's going on?
Thanks, guys. We're excited to announce that Excalibur has merged with McFarland Rowlands, and that was effective on September 1st. McFarland Rowlands is owned by Definity or McDougall's, which, as everybody knows, Definity does have a 75% stake in there, and the employees have a 25% stake. We're excited to announce that myself, Una, and Ken are going to continue on, and the Excalibur brand will continue on, and Ken, myself, and Una are shareholders with McDougall, and we're excited about the opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Steve?
One of the brokerages I operate, they're totally separate companies, did a partnership deal with Southampton Financial, and that was effective June 4th.
Awesome. And Adam, what's your news?
Yeah, I'm not sure really if I have news. It's certainly not current events so far as news. I mean, we've had a shareholder financier on the East Coast for a bunch of years that has sort of helped us go through a bunch of growth and growth funding, and we are just at the tail end. And maybe by the time this goes live, we'll have crossed the finish line on another funding raise of growth capital. So I guess it's a bit of a no-name basis as far as national publications go like this. But shortly after this comes out, we'll be able to talk about partnership and raise amount as it makes up. But I think that's the connective tissue, is we're all doing sort of financial transactions to accomplish goals. Mine happens to be trying to grow some of the core businesses.
Okay, thanks for that, guys. Really intriguing. I mean, there's 2,000 brokerages in Canada, and one would imagine that there is almost every single one of them has had these conversations, acted on these conversations, is planning on these conversations, and really begs the whole question. I think we actually talked about it on a previous episode, is what does independence actually mean? And maybe we'll dig into any new ideas you guys might have on that particular topic. But first, selling a business you've worked on, selling anything that you've owned for a long time is an emotional decision. And so I want to kind of dive right into that. And Jeff, again, I'll start with you. Why did you sell? Why did you sell now?
Good question, Tom. Yeah, not an easy decision. Excalibur has been around since 1957, founded by my grandfather. So, a number of years of running it. It's in the family. I think the biggest thing for me of why did we sell now is just irrelevance. As a $34 million broker in premium, I just felt that even though we're fairly well known in the industry, we contribute, we've got great relationship with our partners now. I just feel like size and scale matters. And ever since COVID, I felt more and more that was a big issue. The bigger brokers seem to have better deals, better access to the markets, better underwriters. And, my concern is there's a lot of threats in the environment right now. You've got, if you look at this year for weather, you've got a $3 billion weather event in Calgary with the hail, a couple $1 billion events in Toronto, $1 billion in Quebec with flooding. You got Jasper fires. Loss ratios are going up in companies. I'm not sure how the year's going to end up, but there's going to be more and more stress put on providers. And if they have to make moves and capital is an issue, you could see contracts be taken away. And I feel the smaller broker is at a disadvantage, not having the scale and size. So those are all things that, hey, if somebody comes in and you use one or two markets and all of a sudden your valuation goes down, you could be selling your brokerage at a fire sale or at a really bad price. So do you want to try and cap out the market and get a fair price on it, or get fair value to transition it, or do you want to be put into a bad position? So these are all things that went through my head as a broker. And that's, Adam Mitchell and I joke about a game of chicken. I'm older than Adam quite a bit and a different part of my career. So my risk level started to go down based on what was happening. And I knew I made a decision. So that was kind of things that motivated. I did have a partner, Paul Wetlaufer, that wanted to retire. So that also weighed into the decision. And, we were looking for opportunities to get some size and scale.
Crazy to unpack a bit is your statement that, at a $34 million broker, you didn't feel safe, or, I don't know if you use the word relevant or what it was, but to think about the gross majority of businesses and brokerages by quantity are under that size, right? Like how many people worked or work at Excalibur?
We have about 31 employees on the team.
So that puts it in like the top couple hundred out of like a few thousand Ontario brokerages. It's interesting. I wonder how many are processing the same way.
It's funny because, it'd be interesting because I think I've spoken to a number of people that have reached out to me, and there's a lot of people feeling kind of what I'm feeling, but do they want to act on it? Do they not want to act on it? Is it going to change? I'll never forget. And I think Steve and Adam, you were there when we were with Aviva with Tom in Las Vegas. Bruce Rabick said, $400 million broker isn't big enough. And I just fell off my chair going, man, I would love to be part of a 400 million. That's great. But it seems to be, we talked about it used to have to be 100 million to be relevant. Is it $1 billion now? I don't know. Everybody's got a different definition of winning and what they work in. Some people have good enough niches and they're well positioned, or they're in a part of Canada that, being 100 million or 50 million is relevant. But I just felt in Ontario, the biggest market and probably the most competition, that I need to do something ahead of the curve. And by doing that, number one, my people are put in the best position. That's kind of how I felt.
I'm just doing some quick math here. So there's 1,000 brokerages in Ontario registered, and 107. You would be in the top 170 at 30 something people. You might be in the top 150 inside there. So it's just crazy to think that the top 15% still has people uncomfortable by size.
Is it all in our head though?
I've started to wonder a bit of that. I think it depends on what you're accomplishing, what you think needs to be accomplished, because you do need to invest in HR. You do need to invest in systems, in some basic sort of marketing and things to enable to compete today. And so at a certain size, I think certainly much smaller than 30 people, that can be pretty difficult. My current line in the sand is thinking if you're under 10 bodies in your brokerage, of which there's 600 of those, so like that's the majority. I think life can be much more difficult than it used to be. I don't think the conversations from the insurance companies are all that great. I think if you're looking at maybe what would happen if you did lose a market or two, cyber liability systems, you're getting more and more work downloaded on you from the insurance company on rewrite this book, re-enter this into our new system, redo that. Here's a new line of coverage. Go back and review it all against the rest. And
I think that's one of the big factors contributing to more and more M&A of smaller brokerages is the level of complexity that's being driven down, differentiation in processes and so on by insurance companies, by regulators, by it's getting really complicated, and that's sometimes where things like scale, because everybody talked about it, centralized processing, access to HR resources, those things that resources that larger entities have. So a smaller brokerage doesn't have to act as much like a Swiss Army knife than they do right now. So there's a benefit. But I mean, so yeah, I mean, we're, when we did our deal, of course it was just cheap insurance. We took it from the perspective as it was almost the opposite. We had too much opportunity before us, and in order to capitalize on it, we had to make some decisions about who would be the best partner to help us do that. We also had some struggles as a very small. So Jeff's grandfather started his brokerage. We started ours 7 years ago from scratch. It's a specialty brokerage, dealing with very special customers that have different needs for the most part. And IT, a one size fits all IT infrastructure was challenging, and it was going to take deeper pockets to capitalize on the opportunity. So we looked at it as what's in the best interest of that business. And because I ran two different entities and two different brokerages, what's in the best interest of one is not necessarily in the best interest of others. There's no right path, or no right partner, or no right buyer for everyone. It's very individualistic. So what is it that they're bringing to the table that's going to, for us, it was about continuity. And continuity of cheap insurance required a very unique partner. And that's why we chose who we chose.
Yeah, I think, Adam, just to add on to your point and Steve's point, when you look at all the brokerages in Ontario, I'm not sure how many, some of them are already aligned with, say, All Risk, or some other aggregate, or maybe Billiard or something like that. So there is some alignment in there. So I don't know out of those how many are kind of subdivided in that area. But, one of the things for us too is, as our team stability for our decision criteria is, I want to make sure our team had great opportunity. I want to continue on in the business. So I'm excited that I get to work with my team with bigger volume. I wanted to keep my brand, so I'm allowed to keep the brand, which is also very important with connecting with McDougall, I wanted to have an investment opportunity to be part of something bigger and have shares. So we have shares in there. We can help grow the business and apply our expertise. And, it was also important that we had aligned values. Like I wanted to deal with somebody that thought and acted like we do. Appreciated our digital skills. We're having a good year. We're growing very well and things are going well. But your point about the HR, we're having trouble attracting people. And biggest theme I hear from everybody, can't get enough people, can't attract people. And I'm not big enough at 30, 33 people to full-time HR. I think 50 to 60 people is the number. I think, Adam, you've reached that point. You've got full-time HR. That's something you got to get to. And HR is the one thing that you need to have that in your secret sauce or magic sauce. And congratulations, you, Adam, you got to that scale and you hired that. And I'm going to suggest brokers need to either fake it before they make it and get that, or connect somewhere to do it, right?
So, Adam, you've taken a different path than these two old farts have. And just for the record, I'm actually older than both of them. So 3 old farts. Do you want to talk about your path and why you're going down that road?
Jeff alluded to it a couple of times. We talked about doing something together, or what else we would do. And I've heard him say, 100 times, if I heard it once, if I was your age, I'd probably double down and try this strategy. So it's probably made up of a few things. One, we reached a certain critical size as, 90 people, 70 million. We have HR, we have finance, we have, tech development, we have a marketing team. There's some infrastructure there. So the chasm that our firm needs to jump to make it to the next final table, and whether or not we can do it, is I think we have enough momentum and enough of a lead to get there. It's by no means home free. As a decade ago, there used to be a couple billion-dollar brokers, and now there's a dozen. And I don't think size instantly means better and organized and because a number of the ones that got there as of late over the last 5 years have a lot of cleanup and things to organize and make happen. So that won't happen overnight. And then we have enough time horizon that I'm not looking to retire or de-risk in the next 5 years. So I'm having enough fun, and it's got enough return that I decided to basically re-up the coffers and get a little growth capital and go on the offensive. So our track record's been pretty good. I kind of believe in the momentum, and the timeline's there to feel like it's an okay bet.
3 different decisions were made, and in my mind, none of them were wrong.
No,
and there could be 5 more brokers that have sold in the last, and none of them were wrong either.
No, these are all rational decisions made by rational people for rational reasons. They're different, which is intriguing, which again suggests that, if you look at the whole population of brokerages, the fact that 3 out of 3 have done something different suggests that there's even more solutions out there that other brokers might be looking at, thinking about actually doing something about currently. So, sky's the limit.
And the risk tolerance, right? Like you can't pretend like any of these don't have risk associated with them. I mean, Jeff might have de-risked the most out of the 3 stacks, and I'm sitting with the most amount of risk, and Steve sort of half in either. I mean, maybe a little more on my side as he's got chips on the roll and he's taking a small piece off. But
so one of the things that really intrigues me is none of you were starved for choices of partners, right? There are, obviously, we all know about the big billion-dollar brokers out there buying other brokerages. We know there's private equity. We know there's carriers. We know there's folks I can't think of off the top of my head here, but there's more partners out there than you can shake a stick at. So one of the things I'm intrigued about, and maybe I'll start with Steve this time, is why choose the partner that you chose?
Again, unique circumstances. For us, it came down to we needed something different when it came to our IT infrastructure and where we were going to go and what we needed out of that. So to pick a partner that was just going to leave me on the same BMS or, it would just be more of the same, different brands. So we sort of, we really needed something different and advanced and progressive and not a one-size-fits-all sort of thing. Brand, again, like Jeff, it was important to maintain the brand, particularly with a specialty brokerage like Cheap. We needed to maintain that. And again, I spoke to it before, the way we teed things up and things were going, there was opportunity for expansion and hyper growth. And did me as a person, as an owner, did I have the gas in the tank to do that as well as operate a more traditional commercial lines brokerage at the same time? So I didn't want to be jack of all trades, master of none, and sort of screw everything up. So and then the biggest one of all is the employees, people who work there. Are we going to be, is it the right fit for them? And is it going to supply them with the same opportunity that's going to come with the business? So that was really big for us. So it's a unique cocktail as to insofar as our choice, and it's not going to be right for the next one down the road. And would I do the same thing with Bald? Well, Bald has completely different needs, and we're not even thinking about it that at this time. So they're totally separate. I would make the decision again, if eventually when we do, based on entirely different criteria.
Cool. Jeff, I'm going to guess that you probably have different names, but a similar answer. But do you want to go ahead and put it in your own words?
For all the digital insurance podcasters, I just want to kind of say we went through a process where I identified 6 or 7 brokerages of significant scale that I thought we were a match for. I didn't go out in the whole market. I didn't hire a third party. I hired a consultant to help me, and I had my accountant and my lawyer, and I had my expert team, and then we went out to the market. We've developed a 45-page deck explaining Excalibur. We sent some teasers out and went through it. And I wasn't sure who the best fit were, but I had it narrowed down. And then we were looking for a company that gave us some clout and some size, some extra farm markets. Farm insurance in Ontario, and we live in an agricultural area, is getting very difficult as the risk is getting bigger. So we wanted somebody that had some good farm expertise and commercial expertise. We're a very good personal lines brokerage. We need some help on the commercial, and we needed some HR help. That was important. And we also, even though we're tech savvy, having a lot more licenses and scale to buy technology at a reduced price was really important. So those are some factors. And again, back to the same thing. We wanted to keep our brand, wanted to have somebody with shared values, and wanted our people to be looked after. Those are top of list. And then we looked at getting a fair price. And after those things were looked after, that's all the things that went through my head. And we ended up picking McDougall because they checked all the boxes for us. That was the best fit and accomplished all our tasks we're looking for.
Adam, are you in a position to be able to chat, to be able to answer this question?
Yeah, and we'll go no name basis, but sort of happy to chat about it. So our goal, and I'll answer 2 questions. How do we get into the current situation we're in with a partner? We went looking for a finance partner to help raise capital to achieve some of the things we wanted to achieve. I mean, so I just said we're 90 bodies now. 2010 we were 2 bodies, me plus 1, and so it takes a bunch of capital. Over time, we invested $8 million, $9 million into that journey. Including sort of reinvesting back in to create what we did. And so what we're doing right now is similar to Jeff. We had a 58-page deck and said, here's our history. Here's our sort of 30% a year growth curve. Here's what we think we can do in the future going forward. And so we raised some capital, and we're just concluding that in order to do what we need to do to compete in this market going forward.
Awesome. So let me bring this back to something very, very human. And this may not yet anyway apply to you, Adam, but it definitely applies to Steve and to Jeff. How did you tell your teams about the transaction you made, and how did they react?
Yeah, just number one, nobody knew at all. And even you guys didn't know. I didn't call you till after telling the team. My family, nobody knew. So we told our team first. They're the most important. They found out first. We had a meeting, and we pulled everybody together, and I got almost everybody there face to face. We felt that was important. I didn't want to Zoom or Teams. That's not who we are. And we advised everybody, and we had the McDougall and the McFarland team there to answer any questions. And we explained why we did it, the process we went through, how we made our decision, and most importantly, what it meant for them. And that's anybody doing this. We did not want to do it. Our brand gone, and then half our employees are gone a year later. That is not what we want. We want to maintain everything. We want to continue on. And, again, I'm excited about the opportunity, and I wanted to relay that excitement to everybody and, explain how things are done. So,
Steve, any different on your end?
We were just very forthright with what we're talking about here and what accounted for our decision process, right? A lot of, we went through why we landed where we landed and with who. It actually ended up speaking to some of the frustrations. And we talk about those complexities that we have in dealing with insurers, dealing with technology, dealing with things that made them feel better that, it's might not be like this all the time, and things can get better and things can change with those complexities that often frustrate them. And the other thing was the opportunity for them as individuals, either to increase their compensation, fall into leadership roles. We've got outstanding group of people at a little company that started up 7 years ago, and where that business wanted to go, they very much deserve to be part of the continued success of that organization. And it was going to take someone else other than just me and the capital that we wanted to put into it to take it to the level that they deserved the opportunity on, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. And, when I was at BrokerLink, when I was there, BrokerLink acquired, I don't know, maybe 20 brokerages. And I made a point of actually going to each of those newly acquired places to chat with the staff and talk about some of the newer opportunities that they had available to them. They might have been a 10-person shop, and now they're part of, at the time, a 600-person shop, and lots of new opportunities, likely better technology than they had. So it was, I think we understood very much so that at the end of the day, when people have a bit of a shock or an upset or something out of the ordinary, they want to know what's happening to them, right? It becomes a very personal thing. And it sounds like you guys both really understood that and addressed that right off the hop, which is that's the way to do it.
I think one of the other big questions that came at us when we did that was, who's my boss now?
Yeah. Do I have to keep taking your shit, Steve? Was that the question?
Remarkably, they wanted it to stay the same.
I'm going to have to get an independent review on that. I'm not sure I believe that one.
But better the devil you know versus the devil you don't.
Well, they said that after he said it's still me.
That's right. Exactly. Okay. So I guess, we did I think I talked about this earlier in the episode here, but we did a whole podcast on broker independence, and we had defined what that meant. And if I recall correctly, it really boiled down to, do you get to do the things that you choose to do? Maybe I'll start with the softball. Adam, let's go to you. Right, when you do this raise with your unnamed financier, in your opinion, are you still going to be independent?
Yeah. In our case, it's just a banker, right? And it's a debt raise. The previous round was equity, so we ended up with a partner, and then you have a shareholder and shareholder meetings and reporting. But for me, the three pillars are still your personal sort of income and or earning of your daily duties. B, your equity returns of your investment and where it's going, and then C, your life balance. And that could be what you have currently, and is any of those things threatened in the go forward, or is the plan that it gets better. And the reason I'm raising is to get some jet fuel to grow the equity side and grow the business side, should in turn have the others. So yeah, nothing really changes on my side. Hopefully we can make the business bigger and do some cool things.
Okay, awesome. Steve, you still think you're independent? What's your opinion?
I'm just going to take a step back and address something that Adam said. So, with his raise and to take advantage of opportunity, who he's chosen to partner with is simply, quote unquote, a banker. Same opportunity existed for Cheap, where we could, if it was just about capital, that's readily available as well, in order to facilitate that growth and trajectory. But what we were looking for too was a bank, whether you're getting funds from an insurance company or a traditional bank or other methods, are they adding value to the organization, a particularly small organization, different than Adam's, other than just money? So is it regulatory help? All the bullshit that comes with licensing. We're expanding to Ontario. Rebo's just a beast compared to everybody else. HR, all that. So to ramp up quickly, like Adam, no doubt, has gone through a lot of growing pains to get from 7 million to 70 or whatever it is.
Yeah. nodding vigorously for those not watching.
So an equity partner who can add more than just that venture capital, but can help accelerate that growth through other resources that it had.
That's a really smart other angle we haven't talked about, is the idea of smart capital, right? Like, so it's not just bank money, but, you know, who would be a strategic partner in helping you navigate some of this is an important thing in that calculation.
Well, that sounds like a phenomenal segue over to Jeff, who's partnered with one of those brokers whose premium starts with a B. So Jeff, A, do you think you're still independent? And B, maybe talk about some of those advantages beyond just the cash money.
Yeah, great point. And again, I got to say, my version of independence before I started and where it's at is opened up. It's broadened a lot more. I've learned a lot during the process, and it's not black and white. There's a lot of stuff in between. I still feel we've never been more independent than before. The way Definity is a very big, substantial bank. That's what they are. They allow McDougall to run the brokerage, and they're hands off. McDougall runs their brokerage, gets results, and they do not cancel markets. They do not move volumes. They've got certain creeds and things, the principles that they operate by, and they're in stone, and people, I don't believe it. They continue to back up exactly what they say year after year. So I respect that. That helped me attract me to it, because you wonder, do you have to roll books? Do you have to do this? That's not how they do business. And that was really a really eye-opening thing for me. And it kind of defined a new level of ownership. You've got the Western Financials and the broker links that have 100% ownership. You've got, McDougall that has 75 ownership by Definity, 25 by the employees. And you've got different entities that have different ownerships by companies, different investors that are a minority below 50% with venture capital. And you've got brokerages that don't have any debt and 100% independent. You kind of got a continuum out there. And for somebody to say, "Wow, we're independent, we do this, we do that," totally respect that. But there's varying degrees of it. And at the end of the day, you can say all you want. It depends how you act. Your actions speak louder than your words. So what are you doing with it?
Independence is an interesting word, because it, in a lot of people's minds, it's short form for doing the right thing for your customer, or it's short form for being able to make your own decisions or whatever, right? And at the end of the day, if you do the right thing for yourself, for your staff, and your customers, what does a label matter?
The question is, when you say independent, independence from what? Or the independence, the ability to do what? And like you said, Tom, I think that, whether it's on the front line or the leadership and management level, whether you still have it in your DNA to do what's in the best interest of that customer.
Yeah, well done. So let's switch the dial here ever so slightly, and bit tongue-in-cheek here. But I know that your news isn't public, Adam, so you're probably not getting any feedback. But Steve, Jeff, I'm sure you've got tons of feedback, given your incredible public personas here and the amazing following we have through the podcast. You've probably got a lot of feedback. I'm sure most of it's positive, but I bet you that there's some folks who are pissed off at you. So who is now currently pissed off at you because of your decision? And Jeff, I'll go with you.
I don't think anybody's pissed off. I just want to be very clear that everybody's congratulated Una, myself, and our team. They're very happy for us. And I got to say, everybody is very professional in this industry. I've had very professional dealings with everybody. It was a very hard conversation with CBN. I've been an active member. Steve is still a member. The Canadian Broker Network does great things for the broker. Best practices, workflows, and I hold them in high regard. And they had equal opportunity to stay in the family, and we had chose McDougall. The business decision was right for us. And then the day, people respect business decisions. So I don't think I think certain people that we're part of will miss some of our contributions, and I will miss theirs. So I don't think there's anything negative. There's probably some people that will be upset and will question if we are independent or not. And again, I've already explained that I feel that we're just as independent as we were before. That's my feelings on it, but everybody's got their own take on it, right? So, But generally, overall, everybody's been positive. There'll be people that, hey, they left the industry, they'll feel negative. And again, people aren't going to say everything directly to my face. I don't expect them to, right? Everybody's got their own feelings, but I can look myself in the mirror and go, I give everybody a fair chance, and we landed where we needed to land. And, I'm still contributing to the industry. I still volunteer. I still do the podcast. Nothing's changed. Jeff Roy's still the same person. I still wear my heart on my sleeve, and I want to leave the industry better than I found it. So I'm lucky that I can do that. I just can apply my skills at a bigger volume, and hopefully it's very helpful, right? So I didn't really answer your question probably the way you wanted to, but it's too early to really tell. But generally I think everybody's been very professional.
Yeah, I was looking for a specific list of names, but hey, I'll take what I can get. And speaking to your contribution to the industry, you and I are going to be together in Montreal in a couple of days for another IBAC Tech meeting. So you're still putting out your personal time for that too. So Steve, let's go over to you. Who I shouldn't ask who is pissed off at you, because that might be too long of a list. Who is now pissed off at you because of your deal with Southampton?
Tom. There are not many. I don't think anybody really was, in the sense that there were certainly curious people who might have said, why didn't you call me, or why didn't you call us? But whether it's the podcast or just being engaged in the industry, I knew enough about a cohort of them already to rule them out, because what we needed was something fairly unique for that business. So
I'd probably include myself in that statement, to both you indirectly. Like Steve, me and you maybe got closer to talking about something than me and Jeff, but as we talked about on here, we're raising money, we're into the M&A game, maybe not as classically as some of the others that are doing some things. But my two-part question is, one, do you think you sold the respective things that were sold to the highest possible dollar, or, assuming no, what might have been some of the other fits that made you choose other than top bidder? And then B, one other one that might be interesting is, why not Adam and why not Mitch in that calculation? Because, for the record, we never got into any discussions about that for either of you.
Good question. Yeah, I think, did we go to the highest bidder? No, we could have got a higher number. And it wasn't just about money. It's about our staff, number one, being preserved and keep it. And I wanted to keep our brand. Selfishly, wasn't sure if we would, but it's important to keep our brand,
I think that's the important part to double emphasize, because people know I know you and send me texts of oh boy, I bet Jeff got a pretty penny, and no doubt. But to shine a light on that and double click, it wasn't the prettiest penny. It wasn't the biggest one. There were some other things once you get over a certain dollar that mattered a lot to you. Like you said, brand and team.
And some of the other entities, potentially, the names changed in the door. I might not have been a good fit for our team. And I drive by the office and there's one employee left after a year, and I live in a small town, and that would bother me. I could not live with myself, I guess, myself and Una. I want to make sure I continue to work. I want to make sure everything's transitioned. And I think we were in for some great years. So I'm actually excited about the future. I got another kick at the can. So, why didn't I talk to Mitch? Again, your model, I reviewed it. I thought it was excellent. I love the work you're doing. I'm a huge fan. And, we need farm markets. Adam, you're not really a farm broker. There's very few people that have farm substance around here. So that was a condition. I wanted to get to that $1 billion mark and get substantial volume. I didn't want to do something, and then 2 years later, that entity does something. I just kind of wanted to jump ahead of the rung and, minimize the disruption. And, I wanted to also see some place that, could use our skills. Jeff Roy and Excalibur is either a balance sheet, or it's a balance sheet plus what we can do to help people and the synergy. And, everybody looks at you differently. And I feel like I can really help out. I'm a team guy. A lot of people go, "Oh, Jeff, there's no way you can ever work with anybody." And I'm like, "Because you've always been independent." And I'm like, "No, I can work with a great team. I'm a great team guy if I'm on the right team." So, and I think we've positioned ourselves with the right team to do a lot of great stuff together. And, I want to take a role, and I want to be able to help the whole organization. So just kind of my perspective.
I think that's smart. I think the analysis makes sense there.
I think anybody who says you can't play well on a team has not been watching our podcast for the last 4 years. Like, we got four strong personalities here, and we make it work. So
Sure. It's short and sweet. I think that if there's anybody that checked most of the boxes, it would be Mitch. But there were a couple little ones that weren't quite there, which I'll talk to Adam about offline. But if anybody was close, it was definitely Mitch, insofar as the things that we wanted to accomplish.
For, our side, right? What we're looking at is less so exits and more so partnerships to help things grow. And so from the other side of like where we might have received it, how we got into talks, although Steve only exited a small like division, sort of exited that and, has a focus on the core, and, someone else is driving a big part of the ship from my understanding of the cheap acquisition. And for Jeff, I took a bunch of the chips off the table, if not most, and, was able to go on to the next stage of his career and journey for that team. And I equally agree. Taking his skill set into that large organization is probably going to make a pretty big difference on a pretty big boat. Where I think the ones that we're looking at deploying our balance sheet, skill set, and pieces are probably not to guys like this. We're on that 900, 1,000 brokers that are in Ontario, for example. We're probably looking at the lower half of, ones that have classically been good underwriters, trusted by markets, but maybe need help growing, maybe need help with systems, maybe need help with some of the, advanced thinking of where the brokering has gone over the last 10 years. And that's not these guys, right? They don't necessarily need our playbook. They were sort of stage of journey changing.
Well, again, Adam, cool. Like I said, you've got a lot of experience, and you're really you're providing, you're consulting with them to help them be better and grow them, which is great. And you're going to get an upside when you grow. So I think it's a brilliant strategy. I get a lot of people said to me, "Why don't you leave the industry and consult?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm consulting with a big organization right now, and I'm part of the team. So I think that's a better use of my talents and services right now." But Adam, you're going to do a great job because you can help them grow. So I think it's a great model.
Is retention important to your brokerage? Of course it is. That's why at IFS, we have a cancellation prevention process. Want more details? Give us a call. I know you don't always use a premium finance company, but when you do, you should use IFS. Cheers.